Okay, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021, and we're going to get started here with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. Now, we're trying something a little bit new here. I have not been able to successfully stream live to YouTube and Facebook at the same time and to my Discord channel. So we're just kind of trying it out this morning, and then tomorrow we'll have our broadcast. So weekly now we're going to go ahead and stream our pre-market analysis live again for YouTube and Facebook, so you guys get an idea of what we're doing here every morning. And I think the most important thing to point out is when we do this analysis, what we're looking for is all, say, 3, 4, 5, 6 time frames to all agree on a specific direction. And on those mornings, we typically will get a move in the direction that we expect, and sometimes can be, for instance, here we weren't here that morning, but if we were there, very strong bullish confluence on October 1st, and then on the pullback after we bounced out and pulled back over on October 12th. And so on those two mornings, that's when we got really strong bullish confidence in one direction, with every time frame agreeing. Ever since then, we've pushed, I think, over 300 points. And so remember that some mornings we're not going to get a confluence of all time frames. And that's kind of been the situation here on this kind of perpetual push higher that we're getting here in this bull run, where things are kind of starting to get pretty mixed. However, every time we get a pullback, we get some type of bullish continuation pattern, and the market goes ahead and continues to push higher. So we're probably going to have to put more weight on the bullish signals off the lows this morning as well, just because that's what has been occurring, and it's been working pretty much every morning for, again, almost an entire month. So until that pattern starts to break, we're going to hang our hats on the bullish indications off the lows, just because of the pattern, how things have been playing out here every morning. So let's take a look at our quarterly charts. Quarterly charts all look very strong. There are no signs of exhaustion up there, and the picture has essentially been the same for a few months now. Now this candle will close at the end of this month, and then we will have an official signal, but right now everything looks hunky-dory, very strong. On our monthly, we've been paying attention to this for a few weeks now, or maybe a week or two. The fact that the previous monthly bar, the October bar, is a nice bullish engulfing candle. So the fact that we have a nice bullish engulfing is kind of an omen for the bulls. So just keep in mind, we engulfed all that huge sell-off we got in September, which, by the way, we kind of were watching because of a potential bearish divergence off the high we made at the beginning of September. So we got the sell-off, and now, as I've been telling, if you watch my pre-market analysis for, I believe, the last day or two, maybe the last 3 days, if you go to the YouTube channel, we've been talking about the situation where we're pushing higher now from this previous high on RVI here. We've been pushing down on RVI, but price has continued to push higher. So we do have a case where this could potentially build up and we will get an actual bearish divergence. But the problem with these high time frames is the fact that this is going to take a long time to develop, this new November bar. We've got an entire month, so a lot of time for this story to change. And then we need the next candle to open and close to actually have a confirmation on a signal. So these monthly time frame it's gonna be hard to really say anything about until we get really close to the close of the candle. So for right now, let's just say that this monthly, despite the fact that there's that argument for bearishness off the high right now, remember this candle has a month to develop. There's so much that could happen before that happens. So, or before this actually closes, and it could look totally different. So right now, I would just say that the monthly still looks very strong, and maybe a bearish pattern will occur, but it might not happen for, again, 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now. Right now we have that bullish engulfing candle from the previous monthly bar, so I would argue we're still looking pretty strong on the monthly. We get to our weekly, and this is where we have again the same situation. And we said, I think a day or two ago, we're starting to get kind of this wishy-washy situation on the high time frame. So the quarterly is not in the picture, but when the monthly, the weekly, and maybe even the daily, we're starting to get what looks to be a bearish exhaustion pattern off these highs. Again, the problem is with the monthly and the weekly is we have a lot of time before they close and get our next candle to close for the confirmation. So this weekly again has very similar to this monthly. We have a push higher to new highs, but the RVI is lower right now. Just keep in mind we have half a week of price action before this candle closes, and then we need the next candle to close to actually see if we're going to get a peak in RVI here. So we have a high peak to a low peak on the indicator. So for right now, a little bit of that bearish argument, but overall, the market looks really strong. We actually have a nice closed bullish signal off the lows back from October 1st and the end of the first week of October there. And then you can see we've got this really strong push, really strong candlesticks here. So there is, again, that potential bearish argument that could build up in, say, a week or two from now. But right now, everything looks really strong. And then our daily, we talked about the potential bearish signal over here, which has now continued to follow through. So if you look at the RVI, it's still a straight line and then continued to push to make a higher high on RVI yesterday. But now we have a potential peak. So yesterday we said if we don't break the high of yesterday, or I'm sorry, but if we didn't break the high of the day before yesterday, because that's what we were looking at, then we would potentially have a peak here on RVI and an actual turn. So we have a peak compared to a peak, so we could actually draw the divergence in. But that didn't happen, and now we've pushed to a higher high on price. The RVI is still showing a bearish divergence. If we don't break the high from yesterday and we start to pull back and this RVI signal ends up closing down like that, then we'll actually have this peak back here, this peak over here, lower high on RVI, higher high on price. So we'll watch this and see if that occurs. So for right now, if we don't break the previous daily high, we will potentially have a nice clear bearish divergence on the daily. And typically when a daily has a nice confirmed signal, either bullish or bearish, it can go for very large pushes. So if you look to the past here on the chart, you'll see that our daily, got a bearish signal back at the end of September, got a really big sell-off. We're talking over 200 points. Then we got a bullish signal off the lows that pushed for over 300 points. And again, on the pullback, after it bounced out, pulled back to 61.8 of that previous price action, we got that next bullish divergence on the daily that led to another 250 point push. Again, so when you have these daily signals, they can turn into large pushes. You can also have a situation like this where you get the bearish divergence, you get a shallow pullback of maybe 50 points, and then the bulls jump in and continue. And so that might be something that could occur right here. But remember, we have to wait for today's bar to close and see where this signal is on RVI, because if the signal ends up continuing to push higher like that, or if it's doesn't actually create a peak like you see right now, then we're just going to have to reconsider what we're seeing. But for now, it's there. So we're going to watch that previous daily high and see if we can stay below that for this picture to actually carry through. Going to our 4-hour, this is the issue. The 4-hour has been giving us bullish and bearish signals in fairly tight ranges, and then every time we see some type of convincing bearish signal, the bulls jump in on the continuation pattern off the lows and continue to push. This morning, coming into the market from the previous daily high, I'd argue there's really no good clear bearish divergence. So our 4-hour, and I think even the hourly, if we jump down one more time frame here, doesn't have, in my opinion, the most convincing bearish divergence pattern. In fact, you really would have to stretch to find some type of argument for divergence off the high there. So I don't see any arguments for bearishness off the overnight or the previous daily high or the overnight high. But what I am seeing is once we get down to the 4-hour time frame, I'm starting to see some convincing bullish continuation patterns off the current overnight low, which is at 46.15. And if we go to the 4-hour here and we look to the previous peak we have on RVI, which was back here, it was off the previous daily low up to that 46.15 level right now. We have a very nice bullish divergence on the 4-hour as well. Just keep in mind that this 4-hour candle won't actually close until 7 a.m. Pacific, which is about 30 minutes after the open. So this picture on the 4-hour could very well change, but I like the fact that right now, off that 46.15 level, we do have a potential for the 4-hour to print a bullish divergence. And when we go to the 60-minute, we're starting to see it as well. So looks like bullish off 46.15 right now. Let's go down to the intermediate time frames and see if we're getting agreement with what we saw up top there. So first off, we'll go to our 30-minute here, take a look, and we are getting a pretty extended here on RVI. So if we go back in time to previous swing lows, in fact, if we go all the way back to that same swing low that we looked at on the 4-hour, and you look to the price, we pushed much higher on price, but the RVI has pushed significantly lower as well. So there's pretty much all of our high to intermediate time frames are starting to show bullishness off the overnight low at 46.15. So I like that. And then, like I said, off the all-time high that we made in yesterday's market, I don't actually see any arguments for bearishness right now from any of these high time frames moving into the intermediate time frames. So that would tell me we could expect a continuation higher, especially because we have pretty much every time frame showing bullishness off the current overnight low. Keep in mind that they could trek a little bit lower and the bullish signals could continue to kind of build up. But right now, off that overnight low, getting some good confluence. And if we look at the leg, so if we look at the previous low, the previous daily low to the highs that we made, the all-time highs, we are sitting right at 38% of that leg. So of yesterday's price action, we are sitting right at 38%, which is not a bad area for the bulls to jump in. We also have a prediction point sitting right there almost to the tick where the bounce occurred. So there's a lot sitting right there. Good argument for a potential push up here to come up and at least test the all-time high, if not go ahead and push right on through it there. So we'll see if something like that occurs. That's what we're kind of seeing here on pretty much every time frame. And so the question is, will the bulls have enough strength to hold 46.15 here and go ahead to push up and test the previous daily high? That's what we're getting in the picture right now. And looking to my 3-minute, also have a decent 3-minute bullish signal down there. Now the issue with the 3-minute is we're starting to get a bearish signal on this push up, and you can see that we kind of, let me see if I can draw this here. We came down, we came back up, and we retested and got a double top with a bearish divergence on the 3-minute, and we're now starting to pull back again. So there's some indications of weakness in the potential bounce out of 46.15. It's also not out of the realm of possibility for them to pull back here, retrace the leg to some extent, and then go ahead and bounce out to continue to push higher right there. So we'll see if that occurs as well. But right now, that 46.15 is where everything is lining up. There's no guarantees when we get these type of things lining up. And what I should also point out is we want to consider this retracement. So we are bouncing off 38% of yesterday's price action. 50% of yesterday's price action is sitting here at 46.10. And if they do pull back into that level, we do have some decent resistance that really has never been checked nice and cleanly once we broke through. So we'll see, you can see on the 10-minute, we broke through and this 10-minute bar came down and tested it and pushed. But overall, nothing clean like a break like this and then a pullback to that level with some structure there. So a pullback to 50% also important for the bulls to hold. So if they can't hold 38, they're more than likely, if the bulls are strong, will hold around 46.10. If not, we'll probably have a little bit deeper to go. One other thing I want to consider here as far as retracements go is the actual full retracement, which includes the low from the day before. And so sometimes you get a confluence of levels, but because these are just essentially right next to each other, I don't think there's going to be too much. So yeah, it works out pretty nicely. Pretty good confluence with the 50 and the 61 and the 38 and the 50 of those two legs if you combine them. So pretty much agreeing with each other, pretty good symmetry in the market. And so the most ideal bullish situation in this morning is for them to continue to hold 15 and test the previous daily high. If that doesn't occur, we've got some great levels below us to hang our hats on. And again, if we get some type of bullish pattern off the lows, off of some of these key levels we have below us, we're going to go ahead and try them long, because overall that's what's been working for almost a month now, is looking for some type of retracement of a push up, getting long on the pullback, and then watching the bulls carry through to push to new all-time highs. Hey, the whole picture could change. There very well could be some type of extreme sell-off this morning, but right now this is what we're seeing. And keep in mind, we have some pretty strong areas of support below us in case they do come down there. Now, we're going to jump over to our members area where we have some proprietary levels to add to the charts and start looking for some trades coming into the open. So thanks guys for being here. This again was just a little test run of our live stream. So hopefully on Facebook it's coming through nice and clean, and on YouTube as well. And so we'll close everything out. I hope everyone has a great rest of your week and a great weekend. And like I said, well, actually, now I think about it, we will see you here tomorrow for those watching on YouTube and Facebook for our official Thursday pre-market session. And then we'll, again, be here every Thursday after that. So have a great day to those that are out there.